Hello, hello, hello. You are listening to WBIM FM 91.5, Bridgewater State University's Morning News with Wayne, with your host, Wayne, and my interviewee,
Chemp Carpenter.
Hello, Chemp. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here too. This is honestly such a treat. Thank you.
No, seriously? You're so welcome. Do you want to say anything before we get started? Or you just want to get right into it?
Well, hello BSU, and I'm just happy to be here. All right.
I guess maybe I should ask, what is your major?
Well, I major in anthropology. I have a cultural concentration, but I'm kind of gearing towards archaeology, and I have a minor in Middle Eastern and North African studies.
Nice. Are you part of any organizations on campus?
Actually, yes. So I am vice president of the Asian Student Union, run alongside by my best friend and other co-president, Julie Wong. And right now we are preparing for our Lunar Festival.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm going to try to go to it.
It's so much fun. We're going to have a lot of food, and I will be doing a presentation with Julie.
You guys going to have mooncakes?
I think we might, but we are going to definitely have boba tea.
Yeah, I love boba.
So good.
Okay, I guess, okay, that's the stuff. All right. So, just gonna ask you some personal questions just so that the people listening can get an idea of who you are.
Hell yeah.
What drew you to BSU?
So what drew me to BSU, honestly, was that I was pretty much a C to B average student in high school.
Yeah.
You know? And like learning in that type of environment was hard for me as I was an undiagnosed neurodivergent student, and you know, resources were limited for me at my high school. So I had to work twice as hard as someone who was neurotypical. And, you know, I was driven to explore the world and work with different communities around me. I had a French professor during my sophomore to, like, senior year who really inspired me to, like, venture out and, you know, do something and make an impact. And, you know, I remember there was a college event going on at my high school, and the first thing I saw was the 84% acceptance rate at BSU.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I saw that they offered a program in anthropology. And next thing you know, I applied, and now I'm here, finishing my senior year with a major in anthropology and minor in Middle Eastern and North African studies. And it honestly just, the imposter syndrome's kicking in.
Have you always been interested in anthropology?
I'd say yes. But years and years ago, I didn't understand what the name of the field would be, if that makes sense.
I get that.
I absolutely loved learning about different cultures, and traditions growing up, and talking with people to gain an understanding on what their perspective of life was, generally speaking. But of course, it's crucial to understand that a lot more goes into the research and methods and theories in the field, and it can get pretty complicated.
Yeah.
But I've always known that I was designated to this field, like, and, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. And, you know, I think younger me would just be so proud of, you know, what I'm doing, where I am now, and it was hard, to be honest, you know, just working so hard to try and, you know, make a name for myself. And the advice I would give to people who are feeling in this similar predicament, you know, as how I was feeling, is that, you know, don't give up. Surround yourself with the people who want the best for you. You know, don't surround yourself with people who just bring out the negative energy, because they don't want to see you succeed.
Amen.
Hell yeah.
Amen. What do you hope to achieve with your major?
You know, there's a lot of things I want to achieve. I'm an idealist. I'm a dreamer. I've been told that. But what I hope to achieve short-term wise,
That's okay.
is to graduate BSU this spring and take on an internship out west, specifically working on the Crow Canyon site in Colorado. Long-term wise, I hope to get certified as an archaeological field technician and apply to grad school to get a master's and PhD in archaeology. I also want to help communities, and I'm looking into joining the Peace Corps as well. And I started this idea of doing a charity for people who have been affected by the genocide going on in Palestine, and doing Pearlers for Palestine, where I will be creating jewelry made from perler beads and other pony bead specific bracelets, and donating all the funds towards charities. And, I think archaeology and anthropology isn't just about the study of people or material remains. Rather, I believe that it's about engaging with different communities and doing your part. And it's also critical to not overstep and speak over the voices of community members you're working with. But all in all, just, it's community service.
Yeah. And finally, do you have any dream projects you hope to start someday?
Actually, aside from Pearlers for Palestine, at the moment, I really haven't thought about that. But I did have this idea that sprung up onto me that's running a field school geared towards women presenting and assigned female at birth students from all communities. Fieldwork is important for a resume, yes, but although it has gotten better, there is definitely misogyny and sexual harassment and assault that goes on in field schools. When I was in Romania during the summer of 2020 to 2021, I was subjected to sexual harassment, and it wasn't talked about at all. And I want to create a safe place where that doesn't happen. And it's it's such a big deal to me. And it's an ideal. Of course, there's other things that should be in consideration, but it's women and assigned female at birth and women presenting and women identifying people in archaeology face a lot of and
Yeah.
I think that shouldn't be the case.
No, definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you for that.
Of course.
Now, moving into your first little project, would you like to talk a little bit about A Damned Crisis?
A Damned Crisis, yes. So A Damned Crisis was a directed research class where I went to, study a topic of my choosing that's around the Middle East, Eastern and North African area. And, environmental issues, mean a lot to me. And I heard about, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, going on. And this is a project that has been up for 12 years. The project is, finishing up, and, it has a lot of benefits, yet also a lot of, conflict and issues that will stem from it as well. And what I did was I looked into, what causes it, the hydrology, the build of the dam, and, what stakes are at play. And, I did a poster for the mid-year symposium. I made a 17-page article, and it's I submitted it to the undergrad review to get published, and it's getting looked over, and yeah.
Nice. All right. Let's get some questions about that. Do you see a need for people to fear the GERD project in 2024?
Honestly, I think that it's definitely a threat to Egypt, and something that will impact the water supply should more or less be feared. Egypt largely depends on the Blue Nile since it makes 96% of the country's water supply. At this point, Egypt has shifted its position to try and secure a political agreement over the timetable for filling the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam reservoir. Mind you, this reservoir is absolutely huge and measures to 1,800 meters long.
I saw the pictures. It's a little scary how
Yeah.
gigantic it is.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's 145 meters high. Like, it can hold a volume roughly 74,000 million meters to the third power.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I saw that it is roughly the size of the whole, like, area of Albany.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, while Ethiopia is just insistent to have the flexibility to make the decisions on how to deal with droughts, they're butting heads. It's insane. I think that it's important that all 11 riparian countries need to compromise and cooperate to peacefully resolve conflicts over the Nile and achieve the type of water use that will contribute significantly to regional economic and human development. But it's just... compromise needs to be held at both ends, especially with Ethiopia, because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
And, but that's just me in my opinion, I hope that I...
Well, this whole thing's opinions.
Yeah.
If the dam finishes construction, do you think it could be a hotbed for potential conflicts such as war between Ethiopia and Egypt?
I'd say a conflict could potentially escalate, yeah. Previously mentioned Egypt and Ethiopia, have been, at each other's throats for 12 years, to lightly put it. And unfortunately, Sudan is placed in the middle. Dr. Jacob Arsano is a former negotiator and Nile Basin analyst, and discussed that Ethiopia expects to continue its activities on the dam without the conflict being resolved. As far as he understands, the water filling process for the construction of the dam shows that a fourth round has been filled with water, and it will continue to do so. As far as I know, the latest update on the dam was January 5th, 2024, and Ethiopia is 94% finished filling the dam. And I guess there has been failure of an African Union initiative to reconcile the viewpoints of three countries, and it just sucks.
Yeah. In terms of helping Ethiopia, do you see the GERD project as the best that can be done?
I think that in theory, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will be a benefit to Ethiopia and can provide not only the country, but many of its neighboring countries an abundance of electricity and job opportunities, for example. But at the same time, this will definitely be the, second dam along the Nile River, followed by Egypt's Aswan High Dam. And it's just... it can work, but I think that there could be other options to consider as well. And, it's just from this dam, so many consequences are coming into play. And it's kind of like this rock in a hard place situation,
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, yeah. All right. Thank you for that. For your next article, Islamophobia in the West. Would you like to talk about that?
I would. So basically there is an epidemic going on of Islamophobia in the West. And a number of consequences are coming into play, and it's definitely escalating at this day and age with the genocide going on in Palestine. And I think that this is an important topic to talk about because it's very much prevalent, it's here, and, we need to counteract this.
Yes. Would you agree that... or with the fact that Islamophobia has kind of evolved into more of just a Middle Eastern phobia?
So in the xenophobia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. So in the 1990s, Islamophobia was coined to call attention to anti-Muslim sentiment, conduct, and rhetoric. A lot has been written on the connection between xenophobia, which is definitely prevalent in Western society, along with other concepts such as racism, a hostility toward difference, and nativism, all of which have their roots in the same problem. Xenophobia as a form of prejudice is definitely in fact related to Islamophobia in the West for a long-standing phenomenon. It's the discrimination towards Islam as a religion and individuals perceived as Muslims, whether believers or not. In this sense, the Muslims met discrimination as quote-unquote threatening foreigners without considering their unique national different identities. In the case of Islamophobia, when negative evaluations are directed at all or most Muslims or various aspects of society, a broader set of negative attitudes or feelings towards individuals or group of individuals is elicited, as in the case with related concepts such as xenophobia, for instance. Similarly to terms such as racism, sexism, and, anti-Semitism. So Islamophobia is definitely connected to xenophobia.
Nice. Oh. Have you taken note of any changes in perspective since the start of the Gaza Strip genocide?
Yes. So Islamophobia, without a doubt, has surged amid the Gaza genocide. In the United States, the Council on American Islamic Relations is a Muslim civil rights group and received 2,171 complaints of Islamophobia and anti-Arab bias since October 7th, which is a whopping 178% increase since the previous year. You see instances of verbal harassment towards Arabs, Muslims, and Palestinian human rights supporters. You have, for example, Obama's former advisor, Stuart Seldovitz, being caught taunting, threatening, and engaging in Islamophobic abuse towards a fast food vendor in Manhattan, and people being shot, not to mention a 6-year-old Wadea Al-Fayoumi being stabbed. Let me repeat, being stabbed at his home in Illinois for being a Palestinian American. And it's just downright despicable. And these are all but a few examples, Hamas is being equated to ISIS, which somehow helps fuel attacks against Palestinians, as they are being painted with the same brush as an extremist group, and the result is Israel's totally disproportionate war and genocide. Not to mention, Israeli politics has used Islamophobic rhetoric to create a devastating impact in portraying Muslims and Arabs as the quote-unquote enemy and denying their fundamental rights. And so just justifying an indiscriminate war whose victims are being viewed as less valuable than other human beings. It pisses me off.
No, I get it. I know. Literally, everything you said was just like straight facts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We speak facts here.
Thanks.
So I'm just going to add I know you have already written your thing, but I'm just going to add a little bit just for like some context for these guys.
Sure.
I know that some people have equated Islamophobia to generational fear due to 9/11. Do you think that generational fear still plays a part in Islamophobia to this day?
So here's my take. I think that the older generation might feel more threatened by Islam than the younger generation, which gives rise to more Islamophobia, and they can definitely install that hate and bias towards their next generations. However, we are entering a new day and age where we are slowly but surely learning how to unpack and reassess our way of thinking. The new generations are having plenty of opportunities to interact with many groups, including Muslims, much more than older generation, which could explain why the younger generations might be less affected by negative discourses on Muslims/Islam. Differences between certain generational groups exist, and generations should be taken into account when studying Islamophobia and be incorporated into frameworks of it. I think that the differences between these generations and the effects of contact should be incorporated into future Islamophobia prevention strategies. This shall improve their effectiveness by focusing on the aspects that are more important for each target audience. Indeed, the age of Islamophobia is the one of the key issues we should tackle. We can counter this by learning what Islamophobia is, confronting hate speech, microaggressions and violence, reaching out to a local mosque or Islamic cultural center, talk to your kids if you have them or younger family members, and be prepared for effective bystander intervention. These are all but a few examples and frankly the bare minimum, but overall getting involved helps in just learning how to unpack.
That's good. I just want to say that see something, say something is definitely very important, especially on campus. We're all adults. If someone's being, I was about to say a really bad word, if someone's being not very nice, stand up.
Exactly.
At least tell someone, like, we're all adults. Like we're 18, like to
20
to who knows
early
how
20s.
old.
Yeah.
Who knows how old? Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah, just be a decent flipping human being.
Exactly. So next was your what was it, presentation on raging on reading. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes.
I liked reading about that one. I like video games.
I absolutely loved doing Raging on Rating. So basically, the project followed, this new subdiscipline in archaeology called archaeogaming, where it's the study of games through archaeology. And just, it could be excavating like 2,500 ET Atari games in like this landfill in New Mexico.
Or like the Garfield phones washing up on the shore.
Yes, and it's just that, or finding stereotypes in games and debunking them.
Yeah.
Or just generally speaking, just applying archaeological concepts in games. And basically, my project followed, studying Tomb Raider, and the themes of imperialism, looting stereotypes, gender inequality, and the white savior trope in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you feel that even topics such as this play a role in impacting impressionable minds, such as kids?
Absolutely, yeah. The minds of children are so impressionable, and in my project, I talked about Gerbner's sociological cultivation theory, which suggests that exposure to media content influences how social realities are perceived and understood. If you have adolescents or even young adults play these games that more or less subtly show these sexually implied themes of the main of the main female protagonist getting tortured, such as the case of Lara Croft, or disregarding her as an academic in later games, it can definitely contribute to modeling beliefs about the field of archaeology, women as archaeologists, along with misogyny and sexism. Archaeology is definitely overglorified in games. I think it's important to have an accurate media representation to erase this bias. And I would absolutely love to have, a game that's like a field school simulator where you get to progress the season through your actions, build bonds / relationships, go on side quests where you learn different field methods, and have like mini games that's like Mario Party, except you have to excavate a bone without breaking it.
Actually, there's a sorry to cut you off. I was just thinking,
it's cool.
There's a mini game in Mario Party 2 where you're like using like a drill to like cut out the shape of like a object in the ground, and it's like archaeology like esque, but
yeah,
it reminded me of something fun like that.
Like that, but with a trowel,
Yeah,
or like
that'd be
getting the perfect grid line in GPR.
The perfect grid line.
Exactly. Like I would love to have a game like that with a diverse cast of funky little characters and just building relationships with them and learning what it means to be an archaeologist.
I feel like the only game that I've actually like enjoyed that has done archaeology is Minecraft.
Hell yeah, I love Minecraft.
I like the Minecraft archaeology. Although I wish there was more, because all you dig up is like templates for armor to put like designs on it. They're called trims, but
Yeah.
I'd love to find like bones and bits of civilization. Minecraft does that well too.
Oh yeah.
In the archaeology update, they added like ruined like terracotta villages, and it's really
It's so cool.
it is really neat.
I know that a group in that class I had did one on Minecraft.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Since it's a new subfield in archaeology, of course it is. You have people that are like, oh well, that's not really archaeology, but it's just like
Who cares? It's fun.
Yeah.
That's like the kind of thing that kids need, is to see that it's fun,
it's engaging,
and it's not dangerous, and I'm not going to fall into a spike pit or get torn limb from limb.
Exactly. It's just like it's outreach that can be universal for all age groups.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of outreach we need as archaeologists, because there's just so many biases that stereotypes and like misconceptions about our field, like, oh, well, are you a treasure hunter like Lara Croft? No, dip. Sorry.
Dip. All right. So This next question I also want to explain a little bit after I say it. So, would the message be different if Laura had a different background or ethnicity, or would it be objectively worse? I see this argument come up sometimes for video games that are like, have just like random white person that people say it might be worse if it was someone of color doing these things. Like, maybe like Laura Croft, for example. Like, would it be worse if she was a black woman pillaging and like taking all these things and putting them for the museum?
Okay, so I think
It's kind of a loaded topic,
no,
sorry.
don't worry about it. I love loaded topics. I think that at the end of the day, no woman identifying, woman presenting, or AFAB person, regardless of ethnicity or race, should be subjected to,
Yeah.
sexualization in video games or violence that's based on sexual gratification for the benefit of men. I'd say, it would definitely be pretty bad if that woman identifying, presenting, and AFAB, people from marginalized communities were subjected to this because, AFAB people from, marginalized communities face so much violence and harassment as it is. For me personally, I think I want to, establish that I am not a part of a marginalized community, and I feel that I don't really have a place to have a full opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my place to say.
Yeah.
But I hope that I answer it to the best of my ability.
No, yeah, that's a good answer. That's kind of the answer I expected when I asked the question.
Okay.
All right, and lastly, has the assumptions and ideas represented in the Tomb Raider series had an effect on your personal anthropological journey?
Okay, actually, believe it or not, it has. When I was a kid, I loved video games. The first quote-unquote adult video game I played, it was rated teen, was Uncharted. I was about 10 or 11, and I was enthralled. But after playing the series constantly, or any other games that had like a male protagonist and like a action adventure setting, I kind of became bored. But in came Laura Croft, and adolescent me was absolutely thrilled that I got to play a girl, and I also could kick ass. I'm like, how cool is that?
I mean, you already do that in real life.
Oh, stop it.
Stop.
But, at that age range, I couldn't really comprehend or see a lot of the flaws that went on in the game.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like, imagine if that was me.
Oh my god, she's so me.
Exactly. I think that this game has helped me address some of the biases in archaeology, especially looting. People tend to ask me, are you the real life Laura Croft? It's like, no, I'm not. That is fiction. This is real life, pal.
Yeah.
It's
Get it together.
Exactly. Like, are you kidding me? And of course I tell them no and explain what I actually do, and it's a lot more boring.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to you.
Thank you. I don't climb around or like on top of temples or like stealing artifacts. It's just, that's not how it works.
If you guys want to know, realistically, a lot of temples and ancient structures are leveled and or underground.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're technically climbing on top of them.
That's true.
Except they're 10 feet below you.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of walking on top of things,
Oh, no.
time for us to get into your excavation work.
Heck yeah.
Would you like to talk about your Romania excavation?
I would love to. Oh my gosh. So, I just finished my freshman year of college, and, I'm just like, you know what? I want to do something. I really like what I'm studying right now, and I want to get out there and, like, learn more about the field. And came Romania. And, I applied to this company called Archaeotech Canada, where we went to a place in Rapoltumer, Romania, to excavate, 106 CE to 87 CE Dacian villa. And along with, learning how to do ground penetrating radar, which is one of my specialties in the field. And it was an overall blast besides, stuff that happened. But I definitely learned a lot, and I realized that this was what I wanted to do.
These were the things that I'd use as like the advertisement when I'm like, I'm having this person named Chemp on, and they've done excavations. That's pretty cool. Had you known beforehand that that site was home to the structure?
So when I applied to be a part of the team back in like 2020, 21-ish, I have a bad memory.
Okay.
They sent us out like a document telling us about the site and how we are excavating a Roman occupied villa. And, this has been an ongoing project since 2014. And from that time until now, the organization managed to uncover the location of a hypocaust, which is basically a hollow space under the floor to allow access to heating. We uncovered the access to the road to a main gate, what appears to be an early cemetery of the earliest village of Repultumer, a wooden floor in situ, which is basically like not touched at all.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and a brand new building, which is assumed to be a bone workshop since then. The main research question that was present amongst the excavations was trying to address the aspects of identity perception, presentation, and representation. We know that Dacia underwent Roman colonization, where quote-unquote civilizing social constructs based on an urbanized way of life, implementing processes of alienation through technical and technological dependencies, was constantly threatened by external and internal pressures. We know that the very rapid process of urbanization of the Dacian provinces forced a lot of negotiation and practical creolization in the definition and display of social identity and status. And so it was just, that was all there. And it was really interesting learning about, what we are aiming to achieve.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of also answered the next question in that too. That's okay. Okay. So, people who might not understand how this works, I read the thing. You've explained it to me before. I've seen the pictures. I have a general idea. Would you like to explain the equipment you use to do this?
Heck yeah. So aside from standard excavation practices where you're in a trench with your trusty trowel,
And a little brush.
the little brush, you can't forget the little brush and like the little like scooper thing for the dust. This was when I first got into ground penetrating radar. Now, ground penetrating sorry, GPR, ground penetrating radar. I mixed up my notes a little bit.
That's okay.
Basically, you're depending on the frequency you use to, push radio waves into the ground. So basically, you push this large lawnmower-esque or, metal detector-esque machine across a measured grid on a site. The one that looks like a lawnmower can have a frequency of, about 400 megahertz. And, this can penetrate more towards, like, shallow surfaces. The one that looks like a metal detector can have a frequency of at least 200 megahertz. And this one, it has the ability to penetrate through deeper surfaces. So, like, the larger, the shallower, the smaller, the deeper, Yeah. When I was in Romania, we uncovered a Dacian road with GPR and had the ability to process the data and give a formal report to scholars, and it was like so cool. Now, GPR is one of the best geophysical survey methods in archaeology because it's a non-invasive, method. We don't have to destroy an area to get something that may or may not be potentially there. And, all in all, archaeology is a destructive practice.
Yeah.
It's... but GPR can be used for a number of purposes as well, such as mining and quarrying, like analyzing rock and soil layers, or information about mine shafts, like their location, depth, or structure. GPR can also be used for humanitarian purposes, like locating dangerous landmines, or environmental purposes, like detecting chemical barrels that pose a hazardous risk. After I've, done the project, I was welcomed into the Summer project, and we'll talk about that later. And we couldn't go to Georgia at the time due to conflict, but I was able to do GPR across the Boyden Quad because there are coal tunnels under the ground that were used back in the 1800s. And we wanted to map out the tunnels along with detecting an original building that was there but burned down. And yeah, it was just that's my thing.
Pog. Sounds like fun.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
it might be sweaty, hard work, covered in dirt.
It is.
But at the end of the day, when you're lying in bed, you're like, I had a good time.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Would you like to talk about your Georgia excavation?
I would. So basically, in Georgia, sorry, I was a part of the Cherokee International Multidisciplinary Undergraduate Research Project. That is a mouthload, so I like to say SIMMER, where we go to the country of Georgia to, do research on this paleo lake bed in like the Cherokee Plain, and just find out what was there, what we can identify, and we all had individual research projects. Mine was ground penetrating radar, and I also helped out with other stuff too, that it wasn't just like my thing. I helped out with sediment samples, I've helped out with ceramic samples, and yeah. And we were able to go during October, and that's when we got our GPR results, and we were able to present it to scholars of the Ilias State University in Tbilisi, along with presenting our research at the American Overseas Research conference in Boston. And recently we went to San Diego to, talk about our research to San Diego State University and the University of San Diego, and, kind of be in cahoots with them about future projects.
Nice. Now, I might have read this wrong, but I think in the presentation you said that the analysis that you were still waiting for analysis on the 3 sites. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you gotten the results?
So basically, our results take quite a bit of time. When we were doing the Boyden Quad survey, it took us the whole summer to process the data.
Lord. Okay.
Just recently we were able to process a side project where we where we did a survey at Endicott Cemetery in like Boston, just to like map out grave sites that were unmarked. With the GPR in Georgia, we had some really bad field days. It was raining, and if people don't know, when it rains, it messes with the electromagnetivity in the ground. So when you have your radio waves going down, they kind of like, mess up.
Yeah.
And we were able to process a little bit of it, but the data is just so shaky. We were able to identify at one of the sites called Dignari, where there is, some sort of wall with like an attached rampart to it. But yeah, it's an ongoing project.
That's okay. Let's see. I'll cross off that last question since you already explained how it's done in the last one. And did you just find the wall with the ramp?
So basically,
sorry, I'm not asking these questions very nicely.
It's okay. It's okay.
Did you find it or not?
Did you find it? So it's there. It's just the way it looks. It's very, very like slight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we were able to show that at our American Overseas Research Conference in Boston, and people were like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." That's it.
Well, yeah, normally I feel like in your field especially, even something like that, people are like, oh yeah, that's pretty neat.
Oh my god, let me tell you, like, when I explain what I do and like the research I've done, people just, nod and be like, oh, I have no idea what you just said, but thank you for like taking 10 minutes of your day to explain and, the processes. And it's just like,
well, you just took 45 minutes to explain all of that. to people who are listening right now.
So yeah, I love that. Like, I don't get tired of explaining it.
No, I get that. No,
you know.
it's an interest. I have a friend that, not friend from home, but a friend who, whenever we hang out, we just talk about our interests,
I
and we
love
just go
that.
on and on and on.
It's so much fun,
It's really fun. Well, just to keep this objective, that was the interview. This has been WBIM FM 91.5, Bridgewater State University's Morning News of Wayne, with your host Wayne and my interviewee,
Chimp!
Would you like to share any closing words, any inspiration for our listeners?
You know what? I would absolutely love to. As I previously mentioned, if you find something you really love, you're obviously going to put so much time and effort into doing it. I have made the mistake of surrounding myself with people that were just not good for me, and it stifles your passion, your creativity, and your art. Surround yourself with the people who love you and want the best for you. Despite, me saying, oh, I am an introvert, I like my space, at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all people,
People made of people.
People made of people. We're all social creatures, and when you're with people, they tend to either bring out the best or the worst out of you. Be with the people that bring out the best with you, or best out of you, sorry. Yeah. Because it just, it makes an impact. It really does. And, you don't want to be with people who are like, oh, you're a loser.
You don't want to be with people who, like, sap the energy out of you.
Exactly. I think, because, we're all still learning about ourselves. I think that, me 2 years ago would be like, oh my God, like, I never knew that this was going on. But now that I am with the people who love me and want the best for me, it's like, yay.
You finally realize, like, how good it feels.
It does.
Like, in comparison to just, like, when you hang out with people that are just like that. It's like you're sitting now and you're like, oh my God, I feel great.
It does. It definitely does. I would not have it any other way. I'm thriving, and, I wish that people, find that in themselves, and I want people to thrive too.
Yeah. All right. Amen.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll catch you all on the down low. Goodbye. Bye. Yes, I